Get in there, you son of a bitch. All right, so we delicately got that one nice and snug in there. Hey, how's it going? Mike here at Bass Alien. Wanted to do a restring of this Alien Acoustic. It's a beautiful Warwick fretless 4-string Alien Acoustic from their RockBass series. This is an older one from around 2012. This one's done in a high gloss finish, beautiful Alien RockBass, fretless, and it has these nice bronze acoustic strings on it. You know, dust from your fingers and nails just breaking down, gets under here, gets all nasty. Needs new strings, and I also want to put some Flatwounds on it just because it's a fretless. It'll eat into the fretboard less, but also give you more of that moi sound than it has now. It's pretty good now with the round wound. Got a really nice sound already. Just want to clean it up, oil the fretboard. We got some guitar polish, some fretboard treatment with some nice oils to nourish the wood on here, polish up the high polish finish, and then we're going to restring it with Flatwounds. So a lot of people may not know the best way to pull these pins out. So if you get with the German made Alien acoustics, they have a real nice metal bridge, just like the Warwick electrics, where you could just slide the ball end under there. But in here, it's more the traditional acoustic pins that go in there to hold these down. And some people don't know how to pull these out. So they have methods like D'Addario makes this nice string tuner tool that we sell. Of course, comes in bass or acoustic sizes. And I could put a link in the description below there. But so if you see that groove there, that's actually to get into the string and pull the string when they're new. If you just restrung it, it's to pull it and stretch those strings out so they don't go out of tune as fast. Some of the models like this one have a built-in cutter on there. That's what that is. Doesn't work as well in my opinion as some good old-fashioned heavy-duty wire cutters. You can get really in there and get flush better. But this comes in handy in a pinch. It's good to have in your gig bag. And then, of course, the bigger size for the tuning key on the tuning machines wraps around there and makes your job a little bit easier. So all you need is that. Oh, what I wanted to show you on here is some of these, okay, not this one, but some of these have a slot on the side here, and that's actually to get under the pin and pull the pin out. So that's one way to do it. Plastic doesn't scratch as easily as, of course, like metal. If you want to avoid scratches, always use a softer material than the object you're trying to work with. But I like to just get some thin white string like this, and you wrap it around that pin and just pop it out. So I'll show you that in just a second. First, let's get these strings off. And see, this is plastic and these are metal and this is wood. So the plastic's not going to scratch it because it's not as hard as the metal. And you just pull these straight out. On Warwick, they have the hole in the middle to put the string into. You basically just pull them straight out. This guy needs a little convincing. Hard to do this while watching yourself on camera, mirror image. And let me show you all the things I check for. Now you got to be careful too, this nut. These Justa nuts, because they can be raised and lowered with these little tiny hex pins in here, which is a really cool feature, but that means they're not glued in here. So just be careful to not lose that when you're removing all of the strings. Again, we're gonna do this reconditioning. We're gonna polish it up, clean all this nasty dust off, condition the wood and stuff like that. So let me show you the bridge end. You got all those pins in there, but the first thing you want to do is get that tension off of the strings, and then make sure these strings they are metal. They can scratch the wood because they're harder than the wood. So just be careful you're not scratching your instrument too much. I mean, you can cut them if you want and stuff like that. There are some places online that recycle guitar strings, so check those out. And basically I just create a loop. You don't have to tie a knot, and you can just, if this is the string post, you could just wrap this around and then pull it straight out. So we're going to do that. They're kind of, let me show you the shape of these. So you can see there's that head on it you could pull up on. But if you use pliers or some other metal tool to pull those plastic pins, guess what? You're going to damage the pins. So you can get replacement ones, but you don't want to scratch up the pins or the bridge on your nice guitar. So all I do is wrap that string around there about 3 times and then grab it tight so it doesn't come out. And then you're going to gently grab the string, the actual guitar string and the white string, and push against the bridge so you're not putting a lot of weight on the thin soundboard of the acoustic guitar, and just leverage with your fingers and gently pull it out. You'll see it come up and up and up. It'll feel like it's not moving, but when you look, it's actually moving, and then you just set to this side. So if you haven't ever seen this before, first time you're restringing it, you see that groove, and that's where the string kind of comes up. So normally the string kind of rests in there. The ball end goes underneath, and then the string kind of rests in there, and that's how that works. So, and it provides this tension that once that's in there and it's pulled across, it doesn't tend to come out ever, as long as it's seated well enough. So they should all be the same exact size pins, unless you have kind of a weird base. You can actually use something plastic like this to get in on that head against the one next to it and pry it like this. And that probably works better, but I'm just trying to show you the string is a good way to get a hold of it and not scratch it. So that's 2 down. That just comes out like that. So, and then the last one, you don't have the leverage of the other pins, so it gets a little tricky, but that's why I always start on the thickest string. I'd say just use patience and some elbow grease. And then what we're gonna do is the bridge here. Also note the bridge saddle comes out too, it's not glued in. So that's just held in with strings. So just you don't want to lose any parts, right? Let's get our Dunlop cleaning supplies. I sell those too, of course. So I'll put links below to all these handy dandy Dunlop tools. They really do a great job cleaning up your instrument and making everything feel better and look amazing. I had a really old, my Schecter you've seen, I haven't cleaned or changed the strings on that and I don't know how long. I just polished that bad boy up and it looked like a brand new bass. So that's why I was like, I better film this, because I was shocked how good a job it does cleaning up the fretboard, oiling it up, polishing the high polish finish, all that sort of thing. So, and even the chrome and the hardware and everything, the bridge looked like it's gunmetal bridge on that Schecter, and this guitar polish made it look like a whole new instrument. So you get this Dunlop polish cloth. I use this for all the bodies and stuff like that. And then you're going to want to get like some rag or microfibers. They sell a lot of these at like Costco for cheap. Now, the first thing I do is grab the Dunlop 65, formula number 65. It's guitar polish and cleaners. So you want to get that. I'll zoom in digitally because I have the camera focused on my face. So anyway, we take this good old guitar polish and cleaner, and you don't want to get it all over the guitar. This is really the finishing cloth, because I don't want to wash this or buy a million of these nice guitar polishing cloths. So that's kind of the finish. When it's a little skanky like it is now with all the dust, I'll start with these more like these washable, cheap microfiber to get all the grit off and stuff like that. And something like this is actually safe. You could pretty much spray it everywhere on the instrument, but you could just spray it on the cloth if you don't want it to get everywhere. So just gonna spray that nice and liberally onto the cloth and just start literally polishing up every piece of this thing. So I don't know if you could see, yeah, you could see some of that dust on there, I think, right? So, I mean, it just looks, to me, it's, from here, it's real skanky, so. Oh, also, I just noticed, so we're gonna check, I like to clean it first, but we're gonna check all the hardware too. Sometimes you got to tighten these nuts up a little bit. It's a 15 millimeter on the Warwicks. There's also a little screw if you can get a small Phillips screw for the, I'll show you in a second, but it's the back of the headstock and the edge of the tuning keys. There's a little Phillips screw, and then a 15mm socket, a deep socket. Although you should just hand tighten these. So you don't really need a deep socket if you don't put it in the wrench. We literally will put on white gloves. We also wear silicone rings. If you wear rings, like either take them off, or I'll wear a silicone ring like this that doesn't scratch. And, or you could put these on too, but I'd still prefer taking rings off. So that's how I do it. And that way, when you do the final polish before we ship out your instrument, there are no fingerprints on the bass whatsoever. And that's just the extra care we take here at Bass Alien when we ship you your new instruments. Even if we end up selling used instruments down the road, we'll still do a final polish with white gloves on and everything. It's that white glove treatment. So I'm just making sure I polish the back of this. This is really hard to polish, of course, with the strings on the front. So get all those spots really well that you can't do with the strings on. But since you have the skanky cloth and you're getting all the skanky, might as well hit the whole thing so it's not all dusty or whatever. And it really does look 100 times better. I'm not even doing the full final polish or anything, or doing we have actual polish, which has a slight grit to it. We sell that as well, so that if you actually need to, like right here, there's a little scuffing on the bottom. You probably can't see it, but so if I really wanted to polish that out, I can get the polishing compound, polish that out. But really, I'm just cleaning up the bass, and treating it with some oil. So yeah, under here, like this is all stuff you can't get when the strings are on, not very easily at least. Make sure to get in those nooks with your finger. Like I have my fingernail, you get in those corners real good with the cloth, because those are really hard to get at, some of those corners, especially around the bridge where all the dead skin and fingernail dust accumulate. All right, so rub one out on that. And we're pretty much done with the cleaner now. Once you've got it all polished and all the dust off, it's nice and clean. You could put this polish away. You could use it for a final polish like we do before we put it in the bag with the nice clean cloth. Right now we're just doing a quick cleanup on aisle 5. Now we also have these hydrate fingerboard conditioner, which is nice, but it's got quite an orange tint to it, so I don't like always using that. What I use more often is this nice lemon oil, and it just says cleaner and conditioner for instrument care. And I just keep a lot of these that I open in these little Ziploc bags, and I'll ship it out to you with this extra bag. I just do that to prevent leaking. Oils tend to seep everywhere for some reason. So the oil now, you don't want to just squirt it everywhere. I literally will just dab that on the cloth till I see a nice quarter size wet spot on the rag there, and we're going to rub that into the fingerboard. This one's very easy because it's fretless, so there's no frets to resist. And I get the sides of it too, anywhere where there's that exposed wood that can benefit from this oil. And I apply that liberally, and then I rub off the excess later, because you don't want that. You don't want it to feel oily, but you'll be surprised how much actually gets absorbed. Now it's a satin finished neck. You could try to hit the oil on the back. I don't think it'll get absorbed, but really depends on what kind of neck material you have. So it's not going to hurt. You just rub off the excess when you're done. None of these products are going to hurt anything. And then the bridge on these tend to just look really dry all the time. So I always hit that with the oil as well. I think it's just the type of wood it is. It just looks dry, but why not give it the moisture it deserves? The bridge looks a lot healthier now. Let me see if I can show you. Just has a nice little oily sheen to it. Little Charlie Sheen on that bad boy. Right? And then I usually just let it sit about 20 minutes or something. And then you can see the bridge saddle fell out, by the way. So when you're oiling it, it's probably good to take that out anyway. You just don't want to lose it. Then any excess, I just rub into the fingerboard. Now when there's the frets on it, you're going to want to go parallel with the frets. And again, use your nail to get in all those nooks and crannies. Just like when you're buttering your English muffin, you want to get in all those nooks and crannies. So now either on the same rag or a new rag, you want to get at least a dry spot for sure, right? Okay, we're back. And now that we're done, we let that sit, let the oil absorb. We don't want any excess grease. It actually doesn't look too greasy. I feel it a little bit, but it's actually not bad. So we're basically buffing it out now, just removing any excess oil. There really isn't much, so maybe this thing must have really needed some oil if it was feeling that dry. Don't be afraid to kind of give it a little elbow grease. You really don't want to leave any excess oil. And it also helps kind of buff it. Hopefully you can see how nice and shiny this is now, right? Nice. So as I mentioned, this is a good time to check the hardware. Get like a little Phillips screwdriver. Number 1 should be fine. And what you're going to want to do is feel these guys at the end if they're wiggly. And right at the end, there's a little screw. And you basically got to hold this in place or it'll turn on you. And just tighten that guy up until it feels like it's giving you some resistance. That actually tightens up the feel this way. So if it feels too loose this way, you shouldn't really rattling. It's more the screw in the back. But so if it feels really loose and floppy this way, then you tighten this little screw. And it's kind of a preference, but you don't want it too loose ever. So I like mine a little resistant like that because then I don't bump them accidentally. Seem to go out of tune less. Yeah, they all feel a little loose in my opinion, just how I like them. So tighten those guys up a little bit. Should feel snug. You definitely don't want to overdo it. A lot of people think that resistance just from the strings, but at least with the Warwick tuners, it's from that little screw in the back. And then if they're wobbling this way, like that guy, the rest seem good. It's this little screw right here. So you're going to want to tighten that same screwdriver. So just be careful you don't scratch anything. And these, same thing, don't overdo it. Don't ever use a power tool on these. Once those are nice and snug, I grab my handy dandy deep socket. I couldn't find mine, but here's the 15 millimeter socket. And just hand tighten these right on the front. So hopefully you can see that. Probably the side view is better, right? So I'm slipping it right on that nut in the front. One of these was loose, so. And you could do a really good hand tighten. It's just you don't want to use the socket and crank on it because you'll just mush the wood and destroy it. And that's when they can get out of whack and be out, you know, they won't be flush anymore. So there we go. Yeah, you don't want any of that rattling around or anything. So now that's all nice and good. We're all cleaned up. We're all polished up. All right, now that we're all set that way, we're gonna use these D'Addario ECB 84 strings. These are XL chromes. They're mellow Flatwounds. So unfortunately, we don't have, there aren't any acoustic Flatwounds that I'm aware of. You could always check out our website, bassalien.com. We'll have all the info about the strings and stuff like that. What kind of core they have. Is it a hex core, round core? Most are hex core, but DR strings, for example, has some round cores. And then what kind of wrapping? Are they ground wound? Are they half round? Here are the strings. And these, by the way, were a lighter set, 40, 60, 80, and 100. It's just my preference. I tend to play with a lighter set. It's just easier for me. And if you haven't tried flat strings yet, it's very popular on fretless. And if you're doing a kind of old classic rock sound, I'll have to get a zoomed in picture because this thing's going to be focused on my face, but very smooth. There's less string noise. So pretty cool. If you haven't tried flat wound, it's a lot of fun. People say they're not as bright if your style's more rock or slap and pop or whatever. Now the way you put these strings in, again, you have the ball end, you just drop it in. You have the groove of that pin. I forgot, it's not going to zoom. The groove facing the string or the nut, really, you know, like face up towards the fretboard. And you just push that pin down until you can't pull that ball. end up anymore. But really, I'd show you, but you're really just putting the ball end in and then pushing the pin in after it. If you're brave, you can do a slight hammering with something rubber, something again that's not going to scratch. But you got to be careful. You don't want to hammer that too hard. That's just to help seat it while it's, so the pin doesn't pop out while you're trying to string it. This is really hard to do on camera. Yeah, that pin's gonna want to come out. So, all right, let's see if we can do this. So with Warwicks, or really with any guitar, what I do is, so we're going into this pin, right, for the low E string. I usually just do a, rock and roll, whatever symbol that is, the horns. And, you could do far spread, but you don't need to. You could just do the regular, however you do it, from that pin. And then where your pinky lands is about where you cut it. And I found that's almost always the perfect length for getting just a few wraps around the post without being excessive. And if anything, that's, well, I don't want to say too much, but it's plenty of string to do that without being ridiculous. So then you just, with the Warwicks, you push it right into the hole all the way down, get it in the notch and wrap it around once, like a half turn. And it's always going to go in to the headstock, the string. So whatever side you're on, you always want the string to wrap into the center, if you can see what I'm talking about. And then you just start tightening it, but you give it the tension here. You got to make sure that bridge doesn't pop out. And then you want the string, as it wraps, the new part that's wrapping should go underneath the string that's already on the post. So it gets lower and lower to have a more angle against the nut. That's how you should be restringing. So you see, if I'm holding that tension in here so that, and I'm holding it down, make sure you don't scratch your wood, and that way I'm seeing the string wrap lower and lower closer to the headstock, if that makes sense. Might actually have, yeah, I could have cut it a little bit shorter just for reference. But it's tightening up pretty quick here. And then just watch that bridge pin. All right, we're gonna do this trick again where you're pulling it up. You do the horns. All right, I hold here so you don't lose that tension on the bridge. Push the end in to the hole all the way. Give that good half loop turn. You're trying to give tension to the bridge and the post here at the same time. And then make sure this string just loops underneath it as you tighten to get more wraps. And you could use your string winder if you want. Get in there, you son of a bitch. All right, so we delicately got that one nice and snug in there. Apply tension, stick it in the hole. And remember, wrap it into the middle, okay? So this should be going, they should all be going into the middle. So now the other side's going the other way into the middle because the tuning machines are geared differently. And again, keeping that tension down. Now these thinner strings tend to behave a little more than the thicker strings. And these deluxe aliens have a handy dandy built-in tuner right on there so we could tune with ease. We took this beautiful alien RockBass, got it all polished up, cleaned up, tightened up the hardware, oiled the fretboard and the bridge, got brand new Flatwounds on this baby and got her pretty much tuned up. We'll need to stretch the strings a little bit to play a little quick tune. Bro John from Victor Wooten, and I'll see you guys next time. See you guys next time.